All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into one of the most wild alignments of ancient history and modern science you are ever going to come across. Look, we're tracking how verifiable, hard scientific events, literally things happening over the last 2 decades, are perfectly and honestly kind of uncomfortably aligning with a 6,000-year-old mystery. The source material we're unpacking today proposes that the convergence of all these events is absolutely not random. It was predicted. So let's just dive right into the data. So picture this. Around 4000 BCE, the Sumerians just emerge in Mesopotamia. And you probably already know this, but the sheer scale of the anomaly they represent is staggering. They didn't slowly figure things out over millennia. Boom. Their civilization essentially appeared fully formed. We're talking legal codes, advanced math, and incredibly complex astronomical observatories right out of the gate. But here's the real kicker. They left behind a massive library of texts that detailed astonishingly specific astronomical and geological predictions for our current era. Section 1. Celestial and Geological Events. Okay, so prediction 1 is all about the sky. The ancient creation epic, the Enuma Elish, described a returning body called Nibiru on a highly elliptical orbit. Now, fast forward to today. In 2003, and then formalized mathematically in 2016, Caltech astrophysicists proposed the existence of Planet 9. They describe an undiscovered body roughly 10 times the mass of Earth, sitting out there on a highly elliptical orbit in the outer solar system. I mean, the ancient description eerily, almost perfectly, mirrors this modern mathematical model. And this really illustrates the kind of mind-bending precision we're talking about here. The Sumerian texts assign this returning celestial body a cycle of exactly 3,600 years. They called this measurement a shar. While modern orbital models for the hypothetical Planet 9 do vary a bit, some of the shorter models fit right into this exact range. So you have to wonder, how did a civilization without telescopes propose a planetary orbit that modern science only just inferred through gravitational perturbations a few years ago? Well, let's move to the second prediction and see how this builds from the sky down to the literal ground beneath our feet. A translated tablet, known as Fragment CBS 13532, describes the Earth's spine, showing its bones, and a land remembering the sea. Now, for decades, historians just assumed this was, poetic mythology. But when you view it through a modern geological lens, this is a startlingly specific description of continental rifting. It's a landmass tearing itself apart to let the ocean in. Fast forward to today, and we are tracking an event happening in real time. Back in 2018, a massive 50-foot crack suddenly opened up in Kenya, right along the East African Rift. Then, by 2023, the journal Nature Geoscience reported that this continental separation in the Afar region is actually accelerating way faster than previous models ever predicted. The continent is physically splitting apart, exactly as the ancient text described, in a sequence that is eventually going to form a brand new inland sea. Section 2. The Deep Fires Awaken. So, moving from the splitting land down into the pitch-black depths of our oceans, ancient flood narratives like the Atrahasis predicted a period where the deep fires sleeping beneath the ocean floor would suddenly awaken. But what makes this so compelling is that the Sumerians tied this specifically to a set of planetary alignments. And according to the researchers who actually translate these ancient astronomical markers, that alignment is occurring right now, literally in a window spanning roughly 2024 to 2027. So what exactly is happening in that window? Well, right now, we're witnessing unprecedented deep ocean warming below 2,000 meters. Current climate models are just completely baffled by it. Take the massive 2022 Hunga Tonga submarine eruption, for instance, an undersea volcano that injected unheard of amounts of water vapor into the stratosphere. We've also seen totally unexplained mass marine die-offs in 2023 and really strange coastal bioluminescence. The oceans are behaving exactly as the text said they would, at the exact time the text said it would happen. Which brings us to the absolutely crucial question, and we really have to ask this impartially, just looking at the hard data. How did they know? How did a civilization without submarines, without deep ocean temperature sensors, and with zero satellites know this would happen? They didn't just guess that the oceans would get warm, they mapped it to a celestial time frame that we are living through this very second. Section 3. The Watchers Become Visible. This next prediction pivots our attention back to the skies above us. The Sumerian texts describe a category of beings known as the Igigi, or the Watchers. According to the source material, the texts predict a very specific period when these beings become increasingly visible in the sky. And it describes this not as some sudden, dramatic invasion, but as a deliberate process, one that essentially forces human leaders to gradually and formally acknowledge their presence. Now, just look at how this maps to our modern reality. We're narrating a sequence of events here that tracks perfectly with the modern unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP disclosure timeline. We're watching an escalation from a front-page 2017 New York Times article revealing a secret Pentagon program, to NASA forming an independent study team in 2022, all the way to sworn congressional testimony in July 2023 by intelligence official David Grush regarding non-human craft. The parallel here is highly structural. The ancient texts outline a deliberate, incremental process where signs in the sky just become undeniable. Compare that to our modern reality, a step-by-step unfolding of government acknowledgments, military documentation, and congressional hearings. Now, we aren't verifying the origin of UAPs here, but we are definitely pointing out that this gradual institutional disclosure aligns with extraordinary precision to the Sumerian prediction. Section 4. The Awakening of Memory. Okay, this final prediction shifts dramatically from external physical phenomena to the very nature of human consciousness itself. The Enki texts describe a time when the veil thins, and inherited knowledge, which they claim was deliberately encoded in human biology, begins to activate across the population. They call it the old blood remembering. And yeah, at first glance, I know, this sounds like pure unscientific mysticism. But let's actually look at the modern science. In 2018, an Emory University study demonstrated transgenerational epigenetic inheritance. They basically proved that mice pass down specific experiential memories, like the fear of a specific smell, through biological inheritance to generations that never even experienced it. Add to that, neuroscience is currently exploding with research into the default mode network of the brain and altered states of consciousness. The biological mechanisms for ancient memory and non-coding instructions hidden in our so-called junk DNA, they are actively being mapped by modern science right now.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that the Sumerians didn't present these as 5 isolated random guesses. Not at all. They presented them as a highly coordinated interlocking sequence. And this sequence is directly tied to the 26,000-year precession of the equinoxes. All of these steps, the geological prelude, the watcher visibility, the memory awakening, they are converging right now, in the exact transition window our planet is currently experiencing.
To truly underscore their mathematical capability, the Sumerians calculated this massive precessional cycle at exactly 25,920 years. When you compare that to modern satellite-measured astronomy, that is a discrepancy of less than 0.6%. Think about that for a second. Achieving that level of precision from the ground requires centuries of impossible, continuous observational periods, or, as the texts themselves claim, advanced knowledge that was simply handed down to them.
And even more astonishing, conventional modern astronomers confirm that the ancient Mula-Lapine tables aren't just historical records. No, they contain predictive planetary and eclipse charts designed specifically with immense mathematical precision to be useful for future skywatchers, literally thousands of years after they were written in clay.
When we objectively look at this undeniable convergence, modern astrophysics predicting Planet 9, geologists tracking the African Rift, oceanographers completely puzzled by deep-sea warming, governments slowly disclosing UAPs, and neuroscientists unlocking epigenetic memory, we're forced to pause. We really have to consider the possibility that this 6,000-year-old message was intentionally addressed to our exact moment in time. And honestly, perhaps the most thrilling, or maybe terrifying part of this entire case file is that this investigation has really only just begun. Right now, as we speak, there are over 100,000 untranslated clay tablets just sitting in the basement of the British Museum alone, waiting for scholars to decode them. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If the deep fires are already awake, if the watchers are becoming visible, and if the memory of the old blood is returning, what else is waiting in those basement boxes to be translated? And what does it change about absolutely everything we thought we knew about our past and our immediate future? Thank you so much for joining us on this